Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
The way it happened was sort of a surprise. A bunch of us kids were out, and there was a thick metal plate leaning up against a brick wall, and we were throwing rocks at it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd been throwing rocks at it for a while, and making the sound and all that. And I threw a rock at it when, one of the rocks I threw, I heard a little voice in my head that said, "Go through." And we heard the rock hit the brick wall and then bounce back and hit the metal plate.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of looked at each other and we went over, and there was the rock laying between the metal plate and the wall.
Mm-hmm.
There was no hole in the metal plate or anything. It had just gone through.
Right through the metal plate and bounced off the wall and then hit the metal plate.
Evidently, yeah. And it was the rock that I had picked up and thrown. And so, we were kids.
Mm-hmm. And you grew up in Texas, didn't you?
I grew up all over. My dad worked for the railroad.
I see. Traveled a lot?
Traveled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happened.
Yeah.
I made a note of it. I thought it was strange and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next couple of months, things like that started happening again and again. And I personally think that happens to a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I know that the kids who have emotional problems, they get all the press.
Yeah.
I think it happens to a lot of kids, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I got interested in it, and I started seeing if I could get that little voice to do some more, because it was really neat. I thought it was neat.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally learned how to do things like that.
Mm-hmm. You mean at your own
at
command?
Will, yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Then I made the fatal Charlie Brown mistake. The cute little redheaded girl,
Mm-hmm.
I was showing off one time, and I had this little metal pie plate, type thing. And I put a rock on it, and I lifted up. I'd learned how to do this.
Yeah.
Lift up, and the thing would fall through and hit the ground.
The rock would drop right through the metal plate.
Right through the metal plate. It's a thin metal plate, but it wouldn't leave a hole or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
That's
she was
pretty amazing.
Actually, yeah.
It would impress a young girl.
Well, it did, and she went home, and she really was impressed by it. And she went home and told her father, the Pentecostal minister, about it.
Yeah.
Well, the next day, I was headed home, and her father and 3 of the deacons of the church met me on the sidewalk, and he introduced himself, and he said, "This is really interesting." He was interested in all that. I'd like to see this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay. I learned how to do it on command. So I showed him, and immediately they had me slam down my head against the sidewalk, and they were screaming for Satan to come out of me and all that.
Because you were basically living in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
And you also, yourself, you grew up in a very religious household, did you
Yes,
not?
I did. And, I grew up, if the preacher says it, then God said it.
Your grandfather was a minister.
My grandfather was a Methodist minister.
And you also became a Methodist minister.
Later in life, going through college, yeah.